Hello everyone, this is Omar from Casual Meeple, and today we have our first Kickstarter preview on our channel. Though before I go and before we have a look at today's game, I've got a small announcement to make. Now, you've probably noticed if you follow our channel that there has not been many videos coming up. Now, that's not because I'm a lazy kid, that's not really because I didn't have time for it. The problem is quite basic, really. The problem is my internet connection. At this moment, my internet is so bad that I'm unable to upload the videos. This, however, made me think how otherwise I could actually share my thoughts and ideas with you. So what happened is that as long as my internet is as bad as it is, I might be occasionally uploading some videos from my brother's or my friend's place because their internet is a bit better, but I will not be doing this as regularly as I would like. However, my internet is alright enough to actually handle a smaller sound file. And that's how our podcast was born. So you know us over here as Casual Meeple YouTube channel, and I will continue doing that over here. But at the same time, we've got another project going on, and that's the Dog Ate My Meeple podcast. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we started our very own podcast in which we share thoughts about board games and all things wargaming and tabletop. So you get the idea. It's same like here, but you just don't see me. Also, on the podcast we get some guest hosts. So by now we have 5 episodes, the latest episode being on the very same game we are looking at today. So definitely watch it, but also give us a listen, because in that episode we have a guest host, Mike. So he's with us over there helping us out, giving his own thoughts as a commissioned painter. So if you want to learn more about minis, definitely have a go at our podcast and listen to it. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and all the major places where you listen to podcasts, but I will also drop a link down below in the description, so feel free to have a look over there and give it a go. Maybe you're gonna enjoy it. I listen to podcasts all the time, every single time I go to work or during the commute. So maybe give it a go and see, do you like that format? Maybe it's going to work wonders for you like it does for me. Okay, so that's announcements done. But what is today's episode about? Well, like I've mentioned before, today we have our very first preview of a Kickstarter game before it even hits the Kickstarter. So today we are talking about Omicron Protocol by Dead Alive Games. I was lucky enough to get a preview copy, so all the components you're going to see today are subject to change. Most of the things over there are the very first kind of boxed copy of it, so you can expect them to look much better. One of the things straight away is that while we have standees for certain characters and quite a lot of other things, all of these are going to be miniatures. So basically, what is Omicron Protocol? Well, it's an intra-apocalyptic arena combat skirmish game. It's a game in which you pitch groups of up to 6 people from different factions to fight through different scenarios. The scenarios are very story-driven, so we might be a case of we are looking for some resources because, you know, it's apocalypse. End of the world is happening, so they are very scarce. It might be a case of retrieving a cache with information, or it might be a case of actually just defeating the opponent and getting rid of the opposing faction so you can take control. So there is quite a lot going on, but like usual, we're gonna have a look at what we've got in the box. Though again, like I said, all of that is subject to change because that's still a very early preview copy. And while the game pops on Kickstarter in just a couple of days, because you will be able to back it on 20th of May, I managed to get a hold of the very first kind of box copy. So even now, the other kind of preview copies might have slightly different components. Though the nice thing is that today we will also have 2 miniatures, so you will get an idea of how the miniatures really look like. So that's always lovely. If you like the miniatures, then you must know that they've been painted by Berserk Paint Studio. So if you want to find out more about him, you can also find the link in the description. But now, without further ado, let's have a look about Okay, so now without further ado, let's have a look at the game itself. Like usual, we'll see what's in the box. I will briefly give you an outline of how the game plays, and then show you some of the mechanics, some of the components, and like always close with some of the thoughts why I actually think the game is worth kickstarting, despite having 20,000 different games out there. Now, one thing I want to get out straight away, that is not a sponsored video. In no way I've been paid or endorsed in any way by Dead Alive Games to actually do it. I really wanted to review the game, but I'm not really getting any benefit by saying nice things. So in case you are thinking, oh yeah, he's so positive because the game, he's gonna get the game. Not really, like I'm still gonna kickstart it with my own money. I honestly think that the game is good. So keep that in your mind when you are watching our video. Okay, welcome back. Now, this is here an overview of what I have in the preview box. However, that's not fully representative of what will be in the full game itself. Now, what we have over here is, just let me quickly go through it. First of all, we will get a mat, and that's a mat that easily fits in on my kitchen table, and I have plenty of space around. So you can see that the scale of the game isn't massive, which is actually quite nice because I'm tired of carrying my 6x4 mat. So it's a small skirmish one when we are having a mat. So a mat is fine, quality wise I think it's really nice. If the same mat would be in the final box, I would be really happy with it. But along on top of that we have quite a few things. Now over here what we have is cards for different factions. So over here we have Peacemakers, which is one of the factions that will be in the starter, with all the respective cards for all the members. And over here we have Survivalists, again with all the respective cards of the members. Now, to give you an idea, when we have a card like this, we have all the statistics over here for a character, special abilities and so on, but we'll have a look closer at that in a second. Now, for each character, we are also going to have miniatures. Now, I only have 2 miniatures that Mike managed to get them painted for Dead Alive games. So over here we've got Buck, which is this guy right here, and over here we've got Artemis. Now, we will also have a closer look on the miniatures and components themselves, so don't worry, but just to give you an idea. Over here, these guys are something called Sims, and that's spelled C-Y-M-S. Sims are basically people who were attacked by the virus and started mutating, and with the genetical enhancements became something which I guess can be described these days as a cyber zombie. That's easiest. I don't want to give you too much on the setting of the game because I think discovering it yourself will be quite cool. So yes, I'll leave that to you. Go to the website, read a bit more. Now we've got the cards for both factions. Over here we also have cards for the rules for the Sims, how do they move, and a nice turn sequence and actions availables and so on. So we have a nice cheat cards that will help us organize everything. Over here what we've got is mission cards. At the moment there are 4, and as you can see each mission card gives you information about how to set up the map, and then on the other hand we have all the different objectives and what we have to do. I must admit the missions are really nice and they felt really different. So each one had a different story to tell because it felt really story driven, but also it was different in playstyle, which I really liked. Another thing we've got over here is this, and as you can see these are nice MDF, not your cardboard tokens, and these are representative of different terrain. So we have sandbags over here, some more sandbags, we have some crates over here on the grass, we've got some bushes over here, because the game does utilize the terrain, and there are different rules for different types of terrain. To give you an example, I have a whole bag filled with it. There were like 3 sheets of terrain itself, so there is quite a lot packed over here, which is really nice because not only you have the specific terrain mentioned over here, but the rulebook also gives you additional rules on how you should organize the terrain and what are do's and don'ts, because there are certain limitations on how we can do it. Over here we have all the different tokens. For example, we have stun token, we have luck token, because that's a quite interesting mechanic. We have KO tokens, objective tokens, burning tokens, and so on. all of them again in MDF rather than your standard stock cardboard, which I think is a really nice change. On top of that, we have some special tokens for other things, mission related and so on. And also we have a deck of cards with different items. I actually forgot to take it out for this, so let me just quickly show you. What I can say is that the cards are nice thicker stock, and they don't feel cheap. They will be quite survivable if you sleeve them invincible, but I really like that they feel really nice quality in terms of that. So as you play the game, you will have a chance to find some items, for example energy drink, firecrackers, some medicine, grenades, and that's one of my favorites, Sims fire cosplay costume, which means I can dress up as one of these things, thus not attracting attention. It's a small thing like that, but I think they really add to the theme, and I also think that they're quite realistic in the way they work and how it's resolved mechanically. So that's what we have in the box. Let's have a look at an example character card. Let's have a look at mechanics, what the card says, what does it show us, along with the miniatures, so you get a bit better idea of what the game really plays like. See you in a second. Okay, so over here what you can see is two example character cards. I've chosen Buck from Peacemakers and Artemis from Survivalists because these are the two characters that we actually have miniatures for. So, you know, it nicely adds to the theme. Here we go, lovely Artemis. The models are really nice. One thing which I really like about the cards is that if you go to the other side, you have a nice explanation, you get a nice backstory, which means you will get quick chance. You can quickly read this and get a better idea of who the character is, because the game is very much story driven, so I think it adds to it. Now, one thing you possibly noticed is that all of the cards are sleeved. Now, this is quite important for the game, but I'll look at that in a second. So what we have over here is a standard character. On top, we have statistics. These are the stats they've got. Over here, we've got weapons, special abilities, some more special abilities. In this case, this is something which we call a template for area of effect, damage, or different abilities, and passive abilities, along with life. And you see that the life has weird red spots. Basically, that's just a marker. So that's how we track damage. Whenever I will get damaged, I just do the fill in the dots. Same like over here, Artemis at this moment has 1 damage. I heal myself, no more damage. So it's really nice and simple way. You don't have to keep dice or anything. Dice are only used here for noise, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Let's have a look at each of the statistics. We have walk. So as you can imagine, that means how many hexes I can do when I walk. So let's say I'm gonna walk with Buck. I can go 1, 2, 3. That's about it, as simple as that. One of the interesting things is that each turn a character can only do 1 move action. And walk action is a free one, so it doesn't really cost you anything to do it, which is quite nice. Then we have a run action. Now this is the one when, as you can see, he can run far further. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We can go even here if we wanted, or we could run over here almost up to Artemis. However, there are a few things with running. Yes, I can run further, but it will cost me 1 action point, and I'll talk about these in a moment, but also it produces noise. Now, how noise works is that all of our actions will produce or will not produce noise, and that will actually affect how far we are heard. For example, let's assume that all of these guys are a bit further. Yeah, let's go like this. Each character always has noise of 1, so that means I am heard around over here. But if I decide to, for example, let's say I run over here up to that point, I had to run, which means my noise is increasing. So if, for example, my noise is 2, I am heard 2 hexes away. If, for example, I decided to blast off with my handgun, which as you can see has noise 3, it's going to be additional 3 noise. I had 1 for running, 3 for shooting, that's going to be 4 noise total, 1, 2, 3, 4. That sim over here will also hear me and will try come to me and start attacking me. So that's a really cool thing about mechanic, but again, we'll look at that more in a second. Now walk and run simply for moving. attack is how many dice I roll whenever I perform an attack action. So it is about how much he's skilled, but more about what is the chance of actually hitting someone. If I have attack 5, that means I will be rolling 5 dice to actually try and hurt you. Now this is what I really like, that's where the dexterity comes in. Now when I look at dexterity, it's not about how easy it is for me to climb things and so on. This is the statistic which is all about damage. Now if, for example, Buck will decide to attack me, we'll roll 5 dice, and let's say he's trying to shoot Artemis, we look at her dexterity. And with her card having dexterity 4, that means that Buck, for each dice that shows 4 or more, actually scores a hit on Artemis. Really cool. So the damage is not that much. It is partially based on attack, because that means how many chances I've got, but whether it's easy or difficult to actually hurt you, it's based on my target, which is, you know, a nice mix. It's like, I think, a bit more realistic rather than a flat number. It's, yes, I might be really good at shooting, but if you are really good at dodging my attacks, it's going to be much more difficult for me to hit you, which I think really kind of adds to it and makes it far more cinematic. Last statistic is luck. Now, whenever we make attack action, we basically roll the number of dice and we see how many successes we've had. So we're going to look at that in a moment, and then I will also go back and explain the luck. But let's just say that's a quite cool mechanic, which I think helps to balance things out if your dice rolls are not in your favor. So we'll be back in a moment, and I will give you a quick run up through a few actions and we'll roll some dice. Okay, so here we are. Let's have a look of actually how let's say a quick turn would play. Now, when we play, the game is based on an action point system. Now, what that means is that each turn we don't get an infinite number of things, or it's not that you can do one of each. Pretty much you will have a specific number that we build based on the game situation or scenario, and that's the amount of action points you get to distribute among all of your characters. So in this case, yes, it's only 2 of them, so we will be using most of them on each one. However, in a real game, I would be thinking, okay, I might want to only run and hide with Back, so I'm going to give him only a single point of action to perform a single action and just do it. But I have one guy who's in the middle of the firefight and I need him to do much more. In such case, I would spend more, which is up to 4 action points on one model to make him do much more. I think this mechanic is quite good because it makes you think, really think how and what I want to do with each of my characters, but it doesn't make them overpowered. I mean, if I get one guy to do a lot, if for example Buck starts running and shooting everyone around, Artemis and all of the other Sims, I will not be able to do as much with my other characters, which I think really adds to it. It's also quite cinematic, where if you really need someone to go and do the Rambo styled action, you can do it, but it will affect others because they will not be able to do it. You can think of it as orders. There is only amount of orders that they can do, only certain amount of things they can do, but the number is based for the whole faction rather than a specific model. However, each turn we will activate models one by one, and what that means is that, for example, peacemakers are starting, then I will decide that let's say, give 2 action points to Buck, and that means I can do things spending up to 2 action points. So let's, for example, go for it. Like we said, walk action is completely free, so I could easily 1, 2, 3 walk up to my walk value. At this point, walking doesn't generate any noise, so we are good. Let's say for my other 2 actions, I decide to shoot Artemis. So now, if I'm shooting, I look at my attack and I roll 5 dice. It's a really good roll for Buck, so let's see what we can do. Now, this is the number that I need to compare. We looked with the dexterity. Artemis, the dexterity of Artemis is 4, which means that this dice did not hit, so we put it aside. Now, these are the dice I can use, which is great. Now, that doesn't mean I automatically score 4 damage. That means I have 4 successes, and these are the successes I can spend on my weapons. So let's have a look. If you look at Buck's weapon and we are shooting her, we see that the handgun has range to 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, easily within range. We have noise of 3. That automatically means we will be on 3 noise. So let's just put that dice here to indicate that. Then we look at the number of successful hits. Now we managed to score 4, which means we can go over here. With 1 success, I can do 1 damage, 2 successes, 2 damage. But I need 5 successes to deal 3 damage, or 6 successes to deal massive 4 damage. Now at this point, I am unable to do this, but I can easily do that. So let's say we decide to do it, and then I will basically use these 2 successes and I will deal 2 damage. Then I'll grab my marker pen and mark the damage over here, so she got wounded. However, that doesn't mean that these dice are wasted and I can't do anything more. No, not really. I can still use other abilities, and if you look over here on the bottom, each character will have special abilities that they can use using these successes. However, both stun and shift 1 cost 3 successes, which means I can't use it. Now, in majority of the games, that would mean that the dice are wasted and a really good roll wouldn't really help me much, but not in here. This is where the luck value comes in. If I have any leftover dice that are within my luck value, so in this case 5 or 6, I can discard them and get myself luck tokens. Now, luck is very simple, because let's say in the next turn, I'm gonna attack her again, and I will roll, let's say this much. I really want that, here you go, I really want that 4th hit, because I want to have 5 successes to be able to deal 3 damage. No problem. I use 1 luck, and I just add 1 to my dice roll, and that's it. There are also other things we can do. We can negate the damage from others and so on. So luck is a really nice mechanic that I feel adds to it, and if you have a really good roll, but for example you can't get the damage, you don't feel that you've wasted the dice. There is always a benefit because you can use your luck, which is really cool. Now at this point we said we shot with the gun and we moved, so walking doesn't really give us much noise, but shooting does. So at this point there is 3 noise. After each character activations, the Sims will start moving. This is where the cyber zombies come in. Let's say that guy is over here. Now we look at the noisiest person on the board, which in this case is Buck, because Artemis has no noise. 3. That means within 3 hexes, 1, 2, 3, any Sim within 3 hexes can hear him because he's made so much noise. So that's when they will move, and they only move 2, so 1, 2. He will come over here. Now he moved 2, and then the Sim would attack. The Sim has a flat attack of 2, so I would roll 2 dice for the Sim. We have 5 and 6. In this case we are attacking back, so we look at his dexterity. That would mean he would get 2 damage. However, this is when we look at the passive abilities. He reduces the damage by 1, which means only 1 dice really hurts me, because 1 of the damage is gone, is negated by his vest. In that case, I only do 1 dot, and that's about it. Nice and simple. Now, one of the things which is important is that if you look over here, you would say, yeah, look at Bug, he's got 12 life. Artemis, she's got barely 8. How is that working? Well, yes, her damage output also might not be the same, but she's got a wide range of abilities. She can stun targets and sidestep, which means she can just shuffle around without getting attacked by others. She has a special arrow that allows to push targets away. She can shoot twice for 1 action point and place traps for free. So on one side, like I've mentioned, we use the successes when we attack, and when we attack, we can use all of these. All the targets show how many we have to pay, how many successes we have to pay to do it. But at the same time, abilities over here, they have a flat cost of action points. So in this case, I can just pay action point and shoot twice. However, none of the active abilities can be used twice in a turn, which means I can only use double shot 1 time, and if I want to attack further, I would have to do normal attacks, because there is no, it's not a named ability, so I can use it as many times as I want. At the same time, a cool thing about Artemis is this, that she has the stealthy parkour ability, which means she does not make noise when moving or attacking. Because she is using bow, as you can see, there isn't really any danger of making noise, because she can just shoot things around and not really worry about producing noise. So she's really hard to be found by these guys over here. I've played with survivalists when I was playing and testing the game with Michael, and if I'm honest with you, I think I only fought Sim once because they never really heard me. So we can see how differently both factions play. I hope that gives you a better idea of how the game plays, but let's just finish this off. So, for example, that happened, Simp moved. This would be end of activation of Buck, which means it's not another of the peacemakers. No, now turn goes to the other person, which means now we would activate Artemis. And we would assign the number of action points to her and do all the actions. However, even though we might have more action points, like 8, only 4 action points maximum can be assigned to a single character. So even if I have 5 action points available, I can only assign 4 points to Artemis to do her things and do whatever I decide to do with her. Now, one of the cool things is that if you look at the turn sequence, there is a very logical order to it. Now, when we start round 2, we determine initiative by a few things. First of all, the person who has fewest points will always go first. So if, for example, peacemakers are doing better in the game because they've managed to do the objectives better, the losing team will always start first. If they have equal number, then we look at the group with most action points unspent. So for example, if I only used 4 over here and I have 1 remaining, but no one else to assign it to, but let's say peacemakers used all of the action points, I would be going first with survivalists. Finally, alternate from last turn. So if I had the first turn last time and our situation is very similar, you are going, the opposing player is going. So it's a really nice way that helps balance game out. It's very difficult to snowball in this game. I don't think it's going to be a danger of snowballing and getting such high advantage over opponents and that they will not be able to do anything about it. Now let's have a look at the miniatures. If you look over here, we've got Buck. Now miniatures, in this case, these are metal. However, the Kickstarter basic set, the core set, will have plastic. But there will be an option to buy the metal miniatures as well, upgrade them. So, you know, I'm generally a bigger fan of plastic, so I was really happy to hear that the final will be in plastic. But as you can see, the miniatures are really nice. There is a lot of detail on it. You can see the faces, the shotgun. And as you can see, Mike's done a really nice paint job on them, so he brought them to life. Over here we've got Artemis, a lovely lady with a bow, with all the equipment. So you can get the idea of how the factions are different. We've got a massive guy with a vest and a shotgun, and we've got a survivalist, an apocalyptic prepper with bow and some tools on the back. So that gives you a quite nice feel on how the factions are different in terms of game style and play style. Now, these 2 factions are going to be the ones in the starter set. However, the game also will have 2 more, which is going to be Red Dragons, if I'm not mistaken, and that's something along of kind of Chinese mafia feel to it, and animals are cybernetically enhanced intelligent animals. So that's one thing I am really looking forward, because one of the models is an elephant with cybernetic tusks. How many times can you talk about things like that? So here you go, that's how the game plays. You get an outline, you see what all of that means, you see how all of that works, we get idea of how this works. I'm not going to go into too much detail, I'm not explaining because that's not really a how to play video, though if you would be interested in having a how to play video, let me know, and once I would receive the final copy, the big copy, I am more than happy to do a full series teaching you how to play the game. So if that's what you would like to see, let us know, drop a comment, and we will definitely get to it. So that's how the game plays. I've explained roughly, gave you a brief idea of what all of that means, how all of that works. We had the chance to have a look at miniatures. You see how the cards are made, you can see the components. These guys will also be miniatures. So while we have the standees, the NVF standees, in 4 different models, let me grab the last one quickly. Okay, here you go. So we have 2 ladies over here and 2 guys. Funnily enough, we also spotted with Mikey, I'm not sure if you can see, but if you look closely, that's a Polish flag over there. So that was a nice accent for us. Not sure if intentional, but we found it a really cool Easter egg. So in the game, in the final Kickstarter, all of these will be miniatures as well. And you will have 4 of each kind. So quite a lot of Sims will be in the box. It's going to be packed with miniatures. One of the miniatures we are both really looking forward to is this gentleman over here, which is Lance. Now, you don't really see it on the picture, but you can see it better here. That's going to be a mounted character. So the model will actually take 3 hexes, because we have a massive Canadian guard on a horse charging things and just destroying everything. So you can see we've got quite a lot of different characters. Now you can see that they all have different abilities. I'm not going to go into detail because, you know, that's going to be for you when you actually get the game and you will start discovering what they do, how they play. But you can see that there is quite a lot of them and each one is different. That guy, for example, is all about getting items. That one is quite stealthy and is looking at luck. Over here we've got quite a lot of traps, and over here it's one of my favorite characters, where if you look over here we have sober side and drunk. What? Come on, focus. Drunk. So pretty much how it works is that at beginning we can decide whether he's sober or whether he is drunk, and then the actions and what he can do is changing, and it's affecting his play style and how it all works. But when we look at the terrain at the moment, again, all subject to change, it's a nice quality, print is quite good, and again I really like that it's an MDF because it looks nicely and I'm not worried that it's gonna break or fall apart in any way. But I think that's it. I don't want to give you too much, I don't want to be boring, I don't want to repeat myself, but as you can see, the game is really interesting and it's really unique in the way it works. Now, imagine a situation like this, it's going to be a lot of shooting, killing and fighting, but I can tell you it's a hell of a lot of fun to actually do this. So I hope that helps you understand why Omicron Protocol is actually really worth your attention, why it's worth your hard-earned money, and why that's one of the Kickstarters that, among all of the sea of different games, is worth your attention. I hope it helps you make a good decision, and I hope that the decision will be to click that lovely back button. Thanks a lot for watching this part, and I'll see you again in a moment when we will be making a whole lot of summary. Hello everyone again, and we are back by the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed seeing what you've seen, but now let's have a look at what are my final thoughts on Omicron Protocol. Well, I think it's a really interesting game and I haven't played anything similar. I've played plenty of other skirmish games like Shadespire, Malifaux, Wild West Exodus, and each one was slightly different. I even played Infinity, yeah, another one. So I've played a lot of games where we have just few miniatures and it's kind of all skirmish based, though there are a few things that made, I think, Omicron Protocol really unique. First of all, it's the first intra-apocalyptic game. It's not before, it's not after, it's while it happens. The world is going crazy, resources are getting scarce, it is now in the middle of it. If you go to the website, you can see a whole bunch of short stories that give you a better understanding of what the world is like and the setting. And by now, as far as I remember, it's the week 3 of the apocalypse, let's say. So it is happening now, which is, I think, quite cool. Another thing I really like is that the miniatures are very thematic. Each faction so far looks very different and has a unique feel to it, and the mechanics are different. All the factions will play differently, and there is a, let's say, asymmetric elements to it. For example, survivalists will not be better at dealing output, at dealing a lot of damage, but they will have better people who are more sneaky, so they're not going to attract that much attention from the Sims. At the same time, they might be leaving traps and so on. On the other hand, you're going to have peacemakers when you're going to have back or lands, when they will just charge into it and get rid of everyone, massive crowd control and a lot of damage. And while they are quite tanky, it's also very easy to hit them because they are not really that good at avoiding the damage. So we have this like nice exchange, and every faction so far feels really different. And talking about the noise mechanic, I also really like it. I think it's been done before, but never in the same way, and it's never been so intuitive. I mean, imagine a situation where I go and suddenly start blasting off with my shotgun. Obviously, the first shot will be like, okay, might go unnoticed, but if I continue, it will attract much more attention. So same like I've covered in the previous part, that mechanic is quite unique, and I really like how it feels. Another thing I found to be really nice about it was the fact that it's a very simple to pick up game. I mean, the game is very easy to pick up. We've played with Michael for about 4 hours, but after having the first intro game, which lasted about an hour, more or less, we've been able to play the game relatively easily. We didn't have to check up the rules that often. It felt like we got the game really well. We felt that we got a hang of it relatively early, and that's always good, especially in miniature games, which can get quite complicated. Now, how the game will look in the end, that remains to be seen, because, like I've mentioned, that's just a preview copy, but you will be able to see all of that on May the 20th, which means from the day the video is published, it's just a matter of days, so you can see all of that soon. I hope you will be interested, and I hope you will give your look to Omicron Protocol Kickstarter. Feel free to, of course, I would recommend you to go to Dead Alive website. There is also a Facebook group for Dead Alive games where you can see the Omicron Protocol. There is also an amazing profile on Board Game Geek where you can see loads of pictures showing you really all the miniatures, because we only had 2 in today's video, and you can see everything else. So honestly, I think while we are being flooded with so many different Kickstarter projects, and we have giants like Simon producing more and more games, with the latest Bloodborne, which I actually consider to be quite boring in terms of gameplay, but despite that, I think it's important for us to remember that the Kickstarter was there to kind of support the smaller companies like Dead Alive Games. We are talking about pretty much just 2 people getting that out there for us. I personally will definitely back it, and I'm waiting for 20th of May, and that decision was pretty much kind of certain within 4 hours of gameplay. We've played with Michael, and then we were like, no, yeah, we are grabbing the box, we're going to split it, you grab these guys, I grab these guys, that's it. So, you know, it was a very quick decision. I didn't have to think much, do I really want to spend my money on it? I will. I'm more than happy to support them, and I hope that the project will be successful, because I would really like to see Omicron Protocol succeed and even grow in the future, because there is so much potential over there to get the game better and better and build on it. I think there isn't much of a game that is similar as of now. I can't think of any other game I've ever heard of or I've seen that would be similar in theme and the way it plays. So yeah, it is quite unique in terms of that. So I guess that's about it. You have a better idea of what Omicron Protocol is. I hope you will enjoy it. I hope you will like it. Most likely you might be watching this video while the Kickstarter campaign is already going on. So hopefully after that video you will decide to click that back button and you will be happy with it. From my perspective, to give you an idea, I will be selling some of my Age of Sigma, so I can actually get this backed, because I don't want to spend too much money, so I'm getting rid of stuff I don't really play, and I'm more than happy to change my Lizardman army for Omicron Protocol. So that gives you an idea of how much I actually value the game, despite AOS being the massive giant from Games Workshop. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope the video helped you make a good decision and a well-informed decision, because none of us really want you to regret your decision. But I do hope you will back up the game and give them quite a lot of support. I think it's really worth that, deserves the attention. So fingers crossed for Dead Alive Games, fingers crossed, because I really want to get my copy of Omicron Protocol. I hope you enjoyed the video, and make sure to come back over here for more videos. Make sure to check out our podcast, The Dog Ate My Meeple, to have a go and listen about Omicron and few other games we've already talked about. Thanks for watching, and take care.